The simplest way I can describe this is nobody comes into work to try and do a bad day. They don't want to make a mistake. It's all about the process. If you don't have a process, you can't improve. And I could not believe it. We had 0 processes in Hampton Conservatories. It was an absolute struggle. The burden was unbelievable. Now you have the GembaDocs. It's took all the stress out of the Hamptons. It feels like great to go into work and improve the process. And I can only see it just keep going. It's never going to stop.
Today we're going to be talking to Dwain Steele of Hampton Conservatories in Northern Ireland, and they're a high-end, highly customised woodworking business, and we're going to hear the story of how they transformed their organisation through standard processes. Here we go. So today I'm here with Dwain Steele from Hampton Conservatories in Northern Ireland, and they were one of the first GembaDocs customers, so you guys have been 3 years plus using GembaDocs. But today we're really going to look at the process of how you've got to a very, very good place with the implementation of your SOPs. So we're going to look at alignment and documenting and how you're implementing your standards and what your process is to keep them in place and improve them. Before we dive all into that, Dwain, can you tell us, the audience, a little bit about you and about Hampton Conservatories?
Hey Tom, so I'm Dwain, as you said there. So I've worked at Hampton Conservatories for 22 years. I first started at the company as an apprentice joiner, worked my way through the company, was a supervisor, now I'm the production manager. So yeah, I see my role now in Hamptons as being like a coach rather than a production manager. I don't really like that term anymore, it's coach. So I have to try and coach my team in Hamptons to be more lean, more process led. So yeah, we started lean on our journey about 6 or 7 years ago, and we got really good at getting the dirt and the dust out of the factory because we were a joinery business. And we gathered 40 years of absolute crap about the place. And we really enjoyed getting that. That's a bit we found really, really good to get rid of all that there. So we get the place into a good shape, good way of going. And then we sort of stagnated a bit with the improvements. And that really, Tom, is because we had 0 processes in Hampton Conservatories. They were probably in a folder somewhere. I'm sure it existed somewhere in the company. I've never seen them. You've probably seen them when like an auditor or something would come around, but we certainly never followed them. It was always just your mentor. He mentored you in the way it should be done. So depending who you were mentored with, decided which way you actually did the job that day. So we were all slightly different, but we got through. And then we sort of realised, Mervyn had realised that the best way going forward now is if you don't have a process, you can't improve. And that stuck with me because I was like, a process to improve? We don't have a process to work with. So that started me thinking, I was like, right, this is the obvious next step for Hamptons to get the processes down. So I decided one day then, right, I'll go, because I'm visual, I'll try and do this in Excel and pictures. And I tried one day to do it and I absolutely tore my head out, Tom, because it was an absolute struggle. The burden was unbelievable. That was like a 52-step process for a mortising machine, and I made an absolute hash of it. It took me a best part of a day, and I produced this document, and it looked absolutely crap. The pictures were all over the place. Nothing was the same size. All the text was all scrunched up. You couldn't read it. You couldn't follow it. And I quickly realised that I'm going to fail here. There's no way I'm going to do this across the board, across the whole company. I've got to try something different. So it was by pure chance. We were on a two-second lean group chat, and I think that's the first time I've seen one of your posts and somebody had used a GembaDocs. So I thought, right, I'll text this chap Tom and see how this goes. And Tom was brilliant. He says, look, Dwain, here's your free trial. Here's a video on how the thing works. So I quickly thought, right, free trial, for what have we got to use, really? So I quickly did one, and I could not believe it. I just could not believe it. I was blown away by just the simplicity of it. That struggle a couple of days before of that process to this document an hour and a half. It gave me that 52-second step process in an hour and a half, and it was like, wow, look at this here. Look at this generated. It looks professional. It looks as if I paid for this to be done by somebody else. I was so proud of it. I went in and showed Mervyn, the managing director of Hamptons. I was like, look at this. I generated, He's like, wow, where did you get that? I says, yeah, it's an app called GembaDocs. And ever since that, then we've just ran with it. And it's been so exciting.
That's superb. So was that really just a couple of days prior you'd been trying to do that with Excel?
Yeah, Excel. It was like, when obviously I want to start something and get something going, I knew straight away this had to be done. And quite quickly realised that it's going to take years if I use Excel, and nobody's going to use it. Because
fundamentally, that's actually the origin story of GembaDocs. Was I was doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Probably about 6 months before you were having that problem, we were launching a new product at Lumen Electronics, and my business partner Patrick asked me to do the standard work for the new product.
Yeah.
And I was there with my phone and Excel, and I've done this countless times in my career. And good soldier, spent about a day doing about a third of the process, and I showed him my finished article. And I was expecting Patrick to go, "Oh, great, Tom. Well done, man. You're a hero." And he looked at it and went, "Is that it? How long did that take you? And don't you have a software company?" And the rest is history. I had the basics of GembaDocs sketched out that day, and off we went. And yeah, just it's solving that problem of we all want standards.
Yeah.
But we haven't been able to have them. And never mind just documenting them. It's like making them, rolling them out quick enough and being agile enough to keep them alive.
Yeah.
That was the second problem we ran into when we set out to solve the making them easy to create issue.
Yeah.
And as soon as we got that, then it was, oh no, how do we edit them? So we had to solve that problem too. So no, I totally get where you're coming from. Yeah. So when you yourself are super enthused at this point,
yeah,
and you've managed to persuade Mervyn to get his wallet out as well,
yeah,
maybe by this point. And it's not a lot of money, but still, we're from Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I know, we're all tight.
Maybe not as bad as the Scottish, but hey. But yeah, so you're enthused, got Mervyn to get his wallet out. And how did you get the rest of the team on board on this direction of getting standards in place?
I quite often get asked this question, Tom, when we do our lean tours, how do you get your staff engaged? How do you get them going on board? The simplest way I can describe this is, that anybody can understand this, is imagine you have your Sunday League football team. Okay? You've just signed Lionel Messi. Okay?
Right.
Because GembaDocs is the Lionel Messi of Hampton Conservatories. This gives us the power to score goals. Gives my team the power to score goals every single day. They can create a process. So if it doesn't exist, great. Put your hand up. Let's get into GembaDocs. Let's get it down. Let's get it mapped out and on. And the empower of my team this gives, like I've done a process today. This is fantastic. They went home. They feel great because they created this process that's never existed in Hampton Conservatories. They've scored the goal, and the only reason why they've scored the goal is because the GembaDocs is there. The platform's there. It's so easy to use. If it was monotonous, if it was too laboursome, the guys just wouldn't use it. They just wouldn't have the time today to do it.
So you see that analogy.
Yeah.
How do you get that communicated to the team? I totally get the analogy, and the reason I'm asking the question is because I'm really trying to add value for listeners.
Yeah.
It's like they're going to be asking, well, how do I get that communicated to the team? Do you have meetings? Do you have one-to-ones? Do you have coaching sessions? How do you get the message in such a way that they engage with it?
We have two ways of getting across, Tom. The most easiest way possible is in the daily morning meeting. This is where the entire team's there. Everybody's engaged. They can see the improvements that this cell's done today, that the office has done tomorrow. Maybe it's the fitting team. Everybody's getting the feedback of, wow, look what these guys have done. Look at these guys have created. That's going to make life so much easier. It takes away the burden. And that's what the power of lean is.
Totally get that. So you're sharing your new standards in the morning meeting. So the rest of the team are getting to see those new standards and go, oh, I can do that.
Yes.
And I get that.
We take it right down. We have like apprentices writing their own standard work. Like these guys are coming in straight from school, new into production environment, and you show them a process. They've never heard tell of a process, but you give them an iPad and say, here's an app. I want you to follow all the steps on it. They're away running with. They love these sort of things. And they can produce some of the best SOPs we have at Hamptons. And then they're up at the morning meeting the next day talking about how they did it, how they found it. And that encourages all our staff that's been there for years. These young guys are coming in, girls coming in, writing these processes. I'm here 10 years. I can do this now. I have to go. I have to do this.
That's so good, because I can see that methodology. Not only are you sharing, let's say, the best practice and what you're doing, you're creating a positive feedback loop as well into that. So that's the key to me. It's the software. I don't think anybody can ask any questions about that anymore. but the people side of getting the momentum, and I can feel you when you're talking about that. I can feel the momentum in your voice.
I get excited
and
about it.
That's what we're all after.
Yeah.
We're after that momentum, so that the process of implementation doesn't need us to push it. It gets pulled from us as leaders into the organization, because everybody's getting, I can see why this is working for us. So that's another nice little hole to try to dig for our audience to come and see what else we can find for them. It's when what benefits do you think your people understand that they're getting from that process so that they're buying in?
Probably at the start. So I said there was 2 steps. So the one was the morning meeting to communicate it across. The second step on that, and I think this is what Hamptons do really, really well with GembaDocs. I would encourage anybody that has GembaDocs to do this, is before you open the app, you sit down with the team in a quiet area and go through the process and get them to write it down on a piece of paper, because it's amazing.
Tell us, I've never heard this one before. I've never heard another user do this, so I'm really, really keen. Give us this process. What you guys do sounds really unique.
So everybody wants to go ahead and when they get the thing and open up and use it and run with it, but we want the GembaDocs to have a standard. There has to be a standard. All the GembaDocs have to follow the same. They have to look the same. They have to, everybody must understand the standard of the GembaDoc. The end product must have a start and it must have a finish. So you sit the team down and you say to them, right, we're going to create a GembaDocs today. You've never done one. So what's the start? So maybe it's booking a flight. And what's the end of that process? Well, they've got the flight and they've landed.
Right.
So you've already said about the start and the finish. Now, this is key to any process. What's the start and what's the finish? So you just start going through it. Right? What's the first step? Well, I need to know where he's going. Well, how do I find where he's going? I have to go and look at the schedule. Right, that's the next step. That's the next point of change. How do I find the schedule? Oh, well, I have to go and ask certain somebody where that is. What's the details of the flight? Who's getting the flight? What's their name? What's their middle name? It quickly becomes this, I'm only booking a flight, to this big list.
And it's the most simple sounding process.
Yes.
But to do it properly, it requires a lot of detail.
So then we have organised this list, right? And then we've already asked ourselves, why are we doing this? Why are we doing step 7 on this list? Well, that's just because I was showed that way. It doesn't even make sense. So now we quickly scored it out. So we have the best known way of doing this at Hamptons on a piece of paper. Now you're ready to get GembaDocs. Open the app. You have the list in front of you. All you have to do is go and take the pictures of where the product changes or where the value's at it. This is what we do uniquely at Hamptons, and I think it's been the reason why all our staff are engaged, because they understand the process at the start. They're not just randomly going taking snaps here, left and right. You can understand what the start and what's the finish.
Absolutely love that, because the framework that I'm developing, and I'm currently writing a book around this, another one, alignment, document, implement, and improvement. This is all about document.
Yeah. And
I'm really interested to give the audience different perspectives on how to go about this. And this is very different what you guys are saying. So are you doing that as a team?
Yes, it could be a
Every
team
time.
if it's only for your first time. So if you're new to the company or you've never done a GembaDocs before, you'll go through this process with me or else Mervyn, so you can understand, because we're trying to set the standard at Hamptons of the GembaDoc. So once you've went through that with us, then your second time round, you're good to go. You can write as many GembaDocs as you want.
No, I love that. So this isn't one you do for every single one, but for everybody's first one, you're training them how to create that SOP to the standard you're expecting. What
we basically did then was, once we did a few of these times when we found the results were fantastic, is we actually did a GembaDoc on how to do a GembaDoc at Hamptons.
Right.
So we created a process of actually how to do the GembaDoc the right way, the way we wanted at Hamptons. So basically what this is for is, basically this captures all the knowledge of the staff here at Hamptons. So we've gathered 40 years of knowledge into this digital platform, and it's fantastic to have it now, because it's the place to go to. It's the place where you want to access it. You don't have to go on the different servers, different drives. Like, there's waste in that alone. Does anybody know where this information is stored? GembaDocs is where we want everything to be. If it's process led, if it's information led, you look GembaDocs first. If it's not there, then that's your improvement for the day. Let's go and create that process for GembaDocs.
So for your business, you make high-end conservatories. Like you guys have, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have built the orangery for Harvard University, and really high-end belfry in the UK golf course. You've done all the glass work for that. So in a business that's building a highly customized product.
Yeah.
And highly skilled work as well, dare I say.
Yeah.
How do you, so most people would say, how can you standardize processes in that? Because everything's different. You don't build the same thing 2 days in a row. How do you do it at your place?
Yeah, quite. It's very interesting that, Tom, when you say that, because most people come for a lean tour. They say, well, lean only works if you're making this glass or this white.
Dwayne's holding a glass up, and now the mat that the glass
the
is
white
sitting
mat,
on. So
that only works if you're making this product that never changes. Our orangeries, every single one of them is different. But I would say 80% of the processes are the same. They still go through the same machinery. They still go through the same plant, but it's the 20% you concentrate on. So we can get all our 80% of the things dialed in, all our setups. The machine has to go through it, and you just concentrate on the 20%. And we find it so easy. It's amazing. Like, we do this and we do that. This won't work for us. But like, as soon as I say, well, every conservatory is different at Hamptons, they're like, but how does that work for you? And we're like, most things are the same. They just go through. We don't create a new factory to build a belfry orangery or for making sliding sash windows. We don't go going, well, this is a new product, let's just go through a new line. It's the same line. It's the same staff, it's the same skills, and it's all going through the GembaDocs. If it is something different, I said it was the power of GembaDocs. Before we had GembaDocs, we had a type of window, it was called a security window, and we made it about 4 years ago. We bought all the tooling for it, invested in it, and we made it. That was for that customer. And it actually came up about 4 weeks ago. They needed more windows for that job.
Right.
Okay, so we were scrambling. 4 years ago, we made this window. Nobody knows where the tooling's at. How do you set it up? What's the dialing in the machines? What's the settings? So we spent a day and a half trying to reset the machine to put for this type of window. And it was like, it was a burden, it was a struggle, it was downtime. There was, all 8 of us were involved in this. I was pulling my hair out because we had targets to hit, but we just didn't know what we were doing. So we were a day and a half behind because we lost this downtime, the machine. And we eventually got it going. The guys figured it out. But then they didn't just go ahead and run the windows and try and catch up. They put in a GembaDocs straight away because they realised, look at the waste in this here. If we had had the Lionel Messi in our team back then,
that's so good.
if we had had that, we could have scored that goal. We would have had that document go on to GembaDocs, that type of window, pull it up. We would have had that thing going in 20 minutes instead of a day and a half. So now we have the power to score goals. We have a new range there of greenhouses we're just going to start, which is very exciting for us. And we had GembaDocs. We made a trial of this a year ago, and the man that set it up put in the GembaDocs. So I was actually tasked myself there this week, Tom, just literally this week, to go and set this up. And I'm thinking, GembaDocs was really early days when we started this. I wonder, has he even put it in right, or is it going to be okay? And I was able to set that up in 15 minutes, and I've never seen the tooling before. I might as well be double. I'm like very rarely on the floor now, mostly coaching, but I was able to go on that machine, haven't been on it 6 years, and set that up in 15 minutes. And I think that's the endorsement of GembaDocs. I was able, not on the machine, maybe 6 or 7 years since I was on the floor, I was able to go and set that up in 15 minutes with GembaDocs.
That's so key, that it's taking the friction out of capturing that knowledge.
Yeah.
So, back to your Excel and your phone.
Yeah.
Like, if that's all you had, even though you went through a day and a half of pain,
yeah,
it would still have been another day and a half of pain in a year's time when that happens.
Exactly.
So just taking that friction away. And I see that like at a wider subject, like lean is a massive passion for me in my life. And I see that when you can take the friction away from your people to allow them and encourage them to make improvements, that making improvements are easy, it's just the key. If they've not got the tools, you can't be surprised that they're not making the improvements. If they have to beg for a tool, which I've seen in my career, it's like, we have to run through this guy, that guy, or the other guy just to spend $50 to get a quick tool to make an improvement. Don't be surprised they don't ask you again. And
it quite quickly turns around, whereas we're suddenly talking about the process. It's not the person or the operator's fault. It's the process's fault. Okay, guys, great. We've had an issue yesterday in the factory. Where's the process? Have we got it? Yeah. right, where do you think that's going wrong? Step 8. Go and fix step 8, guys, and then come back to me. You're not blaming the person, the operator. It's the process's fault. It's getting that cultural change in your business. It's the process. It's not the staff. It's not nobody comes into work to try and do a bad day. They don't want to make a mistake. It's all about the process, and that's been massive for us too. Now people are very willing to put their hand up and say this went wrong yesterday, and I think it's step 1 or step 2 or in the process. And that's absolutely game changer for us. We're highlighting the problems now. We're not just burying them like most companies bury problems, I would say.
Because we have that expression for people that are in the 2-second lean. We have the attack the process, not the person.
It's massive.
Which is huge, but it's so often a cliche. If you've got no process, it's like inevitably you're still going to be attacking the person because you don't have a process, and you're so dependent and on all that tribal knowledge in people's heads. And again, I love diving underneath the platitudes. So I've seen businesses where they just wanted to get the tribal knowledge out of people's heads so they could fire them if they had to and they wouldn't be so dependent on them. And I've noticed that if that's your attitude, just forget it. Yeah. It's doesn't matter. GembaDocs is a great tool and all of that, but it's just not going to work for you. Yeah. But if it's there to be a tool so we can get that tribal knowledge out of people's heads for the benefit of the collective, and we can get that through to our people and they engage with that, that's when this just... Clearly, that's what you've done. Yeah,
we've totally changed the culture at Hamptons with this. We were never a process-led business. Now, if you're at Hampton Conservatories, you're a process engineer. You're working continuously on the process. And I think that's why we've had so much success with GembaDocs. I think we have over 250 processes in now there. Most of them are production ones. So I'm very, very proud of what the team has achieved over the last couple of years in GembaDocs, and I can only see it just keep going. Well, it's never going to stop.
It's funny. That's my next question. So we'll get there. My next one is so that I'm validating this framework of right. So we've got our alignment, we've got document clearly. How do we get them implemented so they're useful to the people? Like, how do they know the GembaDoc exists for thing X, or if you're at machine Y and you need to set it up or turn it on or turn it off, or how do you deploy it and how do you make sure that people are competent doing the tasks that they're doing?
Yeah, for me, it's depending where it's at. Some people like it on a screen. Some people like a hard copy. It's really reading your team. So in our window line, our guys all like it digital. It's on their PCs and they're following it step by step on their PC and then they're refreshing it again. So but some of the guys they like the hard copy, like a paper, like in a folder, and I print it up the folder. It's all on the walls where they need it. So it's basically just depending. You have to sort of figure out what motivates your team. Is it digital or is it hardback? Everybody's different, and I think don't get too tied up in it has to be all digital or it has to be all paper. Just see what your team likes, and if it's working for you, just run with it. And some people say, is it a waste to print it on paper and then say if you make a change? I think it's not a waste because they're actually physically using the thing now. It's in front of them. It's not in some folder where historically all processes used to live. They're actually following it. And if the guys are following it, that's a win for me. And if I have to make a change on it, great. That's what we're here to do, is change the process.
So what I'm hearing from you there is that the people who are using the SOPs, listen to them and go with their preferences. Yes. Forgetting, we're always using that phrase, put the answer where the question is. But it really is about listening to your people and how they want to use them.
Definitely. That would be, because if you empower the people, they'll continually using the document, they'll continually updating the document for you. If you leave it structured that you're in control of it and there's no bend or no leeway, the document will end up getting put back down again. They'll not have no interest in it. They won't own the thing. And at the end of the day, the experts are the guys and the girls on the floor. They're the guys that's going to come up with the best improvements. They know the product inside out, and they're sitting looking at the thing. If it's a simple thing, it's a 5-step process or it's a 100-step process, they're starting to think, right, step 80. How can I change step 80? That's really annoying me, step 80. I'm actually looking at it saying that's of the day. I've done 1 to 79. I'm on 80 and I hate that step.
I can sense the frustration when you're actually thinking of a real step 80.
Yeah, I can see it in my head there. Like, how can I get away from that step 80? And the best thing to do is not actually do step 80, find a way around it. And if you're eliminating waste, you're eliminating the process. That's the best way.
Like we touched on that earlier, but I think it's often missed that the fact of documenting your process being a massive improvement activity by itself.
Oh, that's massive. It took us a long time, Tom, because we had nothing. We were starting from scratch on this, bear in mind, and that took us a while to get everything down. It maybe wasn't the best process in the world that they wrote down, but the guys, it was their process, it was down, it exists. You know, we have something now.
I gotta stop you there, because to me that is so fundamental what you just said. It might not be the best process in the world, but it's their process. That is so critical, because I've had that with people in my circle, let's say, that, because I'm the expert, I have to write the process. But if the people that are carrying the process out have no ownership,
they won't use
your
it.
Process might be fantastic, but it's fiction.
Yeah, they don't understand.
I'd rather have let's say, a bad reality than a meaningless fiction.
Yeah.
And it's a good place to start.
Awesome place to start, because they own it and they want to improve it then, because they feel as if it's theirs. And the best way to do it then is don't give them the answer to it either. As I said before, I was the production manager, but since I attended the 2-second Lean Summit here at Seaton Matters a couple of years ago, I quickly realised I'm a coach. And this is what Mervyn does a lot as well with this. I don't necessarily want to give you the answer. I might know the answer to step 8, how to fix it. Try and ask them questions.
That is just pure gold. But for me, I actually use this at home, and I've taken my son into GembaDocs recently, just in the last couple of weeks. And the challenge you have as a leader, so Dad, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Do I just show him? Do I just show him what to do?
That's what most people think.
That's the analogy I'm going to use is give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. So what I'm encouraging him to do now is, well, go Google it, son. Have you Googled it? Have you found another source of truth and solved it yourself?
Brilliant.
And he gets growth every time. And I'm explaining to him that that's the process we're going through as well. It's not because I don't want to support him.
Yeah.
It's that you're going to learn more if you solve your own problems.
100%.
You're going to get growth, and you're going to be a better person in your role.
Yeah.
And your learning's going to be far deeper and more embedded than if somebody just gives you answers.
100%. And then you see the light bulb moment with them then, and then you feel great because, he or she has just figured that out. They understand what I was trying to do now. And that is like, yes.
It is. It's such a virtuous circle because, as you've been saying, I can see you expand. Your pride that you've managed to create and foster that situation. Yeah. Plus, so you as a leader have had that, wow, this is so much better. And the person you're working with has had that growth experience. So you've connected much better than you would have if you just handed him a fish.
Yeah.
So no, that's gold. Dwain, that's just absolutely brilliant. This is exactly what this is about.
Yes.
This podcast is to unearth that kind of real world nugget that's going to help other people. And maybe listening to it this time, because we've all heard similar things in our life. Maybe this time for some people, the penny will drop.
Yeah.
So, beautiful, Dwain. So looking at, you've got to a very good place. You've improved so much in the last few years, from no processes to a business with processes and respecting processes. What's next for you on that journey, do you think?
Well, Tom, I'm very, very relaxed about it. I've thought about this, what is next for Hamptons and where are we going? And for the first time, I'm so relaxed because probably with the climate in Northern Ireland and Europe, it's very hard. Manpower is extremely hard to get. Probably since COVID, it's changed. Everything's changed. And if somebody goes out the door, you're like, oh my goodness, how are we going to cope if this person leaves the company? They're so integral to it. They have everything. And, we might not be viable if this person leaves. But now we have it digitally. So I'm so relaxed. We have all that knowledge there. It's there. My team are scoring goals every single day. They're making, the knowledge is just growing and growing and growing. So for the first time over probably the last 6 months, I felt so relaxed about, the future of the business. We're in such a good place. We're very, very keen on apprentices, and they are running, they're absolutely smashing the ball at the park with processes. They're taking it on. Imagine coming in, I would love to come into our company now, starting fresh and having GembaDocs, it's sitting there. It's like a book of knowledge. It's like where before you only really succeeded in the company if the person mentoring you was interested in you.
Wow, that's so true.
Now you have the GembaDoc. That is the person that scores enables to score the goal. That's our Lionel Messi. I'll keep referring to that's how good this thing is for us. So I would love, if I was come back into Hamptons now and I was 17, I would love to know where I would have got. I would have jumped. It took me 22 years to get to production manager, to be a production manager. I could have done that in half the time, I reckon.
Wow.
Because GembaDocs was there. Would have made life so much easier.
Dwain, look, I think it's just been such a fantastic interview. I've had so much fun today.
Right.
But I know there's going to be a burning question that all our listeners are going to be asking. What team do you support?
I wish Liverpool had signed Lionel Messi, but unfortunately we couldn't afford him. So yeah, I'm a Liverpool fan. We're doing okay this year, top of the league. So yeah, interested to see how we go at the end of the year.
God bless you. No, it's been so much fun today, Dwain. No, thank you so much for coming along.
No problem.
It's been immense. Thanks for all the nuggets that you've brought, and I'm just looking forward to over the next few years seeing where you're going to go and keeping in contact and maybe having you in for another interview in a year or two to give us a progress update.
That's great. And so the final probably comment on it is get GembaDocs, because it's took all the stress out of the Hamptons. It's took all the burden away. It feels like great to go into work and improve the process. So most things you see in life, this is new pair of software, companies buy it, it maybe runs for 2 months and then they drop it. You'll never drop this. It's that easy. It's that nice to work with. So my closing comments on it is just go and get the thing.
It's a lot cheaper than Lionel Messi as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Cheers, Dwain.
That's great, Tom. Thanks very much for having me today.